Divine healing is a common belief in Christianity, but some churches really go down the rabbit hole. Before watching this, I would recommend seeing my videos on divine healing delusion and demonic toys. They help lay a foundation for what I'll be talking about. When I was a kid growing up in a fundamentalist church, I was watching a pastor pray for someone with a short leg. The leg started growing out, as I had seen many times before, but this time something else happened. The leg started shrinking again. It was growing, then shrinking. The pastor advised the person that when the leg moves in and out like this, it's actually because of a demon spirit. God wants to grow the leg, but there's something demonic preventing the healing. The pastor asked the man if he had ever gone to a chiropractor. The man said he did a few years ago. The pastor told him that chiropractic methods are actually a form of witchcraft because of its roots in the occult. He then led the man in a prayer repenting of witchcraft, and the leg grew out permanently. He was healed. Welcome to the rabbit hole. It gets deeper. The church group or fellowship that I was in is called the Potter's House. The group split away from Foursquare in the early 80s, and they now have hundreds of churches around the world under various different names. Most of the churches have under 50 people in attendance. However, there are a handful that have hundreds of members. They consider themselves as a non-denominational Pentecostal group with fundamentalist teachings. The current leader and co-founder of the group is Wayman Mitchell. The buck stops with him. If he issues a new rule or mandate, all churches within the fellowship must follow it. The church members' dedication to their great leader is almost cult-like. He is never questioned, and he is often quoted in sermons. It is from his teachings and influence that these healing techniques I'll be talking about are derived. You will also find variations of these principles in some other fundamentalist churches as well.
Idolatry, witchcraft, and magic are at the root of a great deal of human disease and sickness. Now, we're very sophisticated folks in America. We're all educated, aren't we? But you'll be astonished when you begin to discover that we're dealing mostly with a spiritual problem.
The underlying belief is that demon spirits cause many forms of sickness and pain. There is a biblical basis for why they believe this. Jesus casts a deaf and dumb spirit out of a boy and heals a woman with a spirit of infirmity, indicating that at least some sicknesses or conditions are caused by evil spirits. Jesus taught his disciples to cast out demons and told them to pass on this teaching to new believers. Many fundamentalist churches have taken this concept and ran with it. They will many times attribute an illness to a demon spirit. When they pray over the sick, they will say a prayer casting out a demon, or have the person repeat a prayer after them, casting out the demon themselves. However, my old fellowship added a new twist to this concept. If you had some kind of sickness, they often knew the reason why you got sick in the first place. It wasn't just demons afflicting you at random. Sometimes it was because you had done something to open the door to demonic assault. Essentially, they taught that there are 4 spiritual causes of pain and sickness. The first is by involving yourself in ungodly spiritual practices. This includes practices such as crystal healing, witchcraft and other New Age methods, involvement in religion outside of Protestant Christianity, or adherence to other spiritual practices that have no biblical basis. Remember the guy I talked about in the beginning of the video, the one whose leg was moving in and out? Because he had opened himself up to a spiritual form of healing that is not approved by God, The belief is that this allowed a demon spirit access into his body.
I began to discover that chiropractors were the root of many people not getting healed. Chiropractic was begun out of the concept of magical healing. That's where it all rooted from and began to come. Innate intelligence, which he claimed each individual possessed, and which was the force which made a person sick or well. Well, we all know that that's the very essence of occult doctrine. There isn't an innate God force in us. I sat him down on a chair because this can always be seen. It makes a dramatic miracle for people to watch. And as I set him down in the chair, began to pray for him, the leg was probably 2 inches short, would not come out. And so, but it did vacillate back and forth. And so that's always a sign that there's a spiritual problem. They've been involved in witchcraft, magical healing, or they have idolatry or something. And so
But what about the people who are supposedly healed when they go to a chiropractor or other spiritual healer? Well, we were taught that Satan and his demons can cause temporary healing in order to deceive you. However, the effects of this healing never last, and you will end up worse off in the long run because you've opened yourself up to the demonic.
So I need you folks to help me pray. This lady needs a miracle. I want you to scoot your hips clear back, at the bottom, yeah. And so, you know right now if you got healed, is that correct? Yeah, I don't want you to put your flip-flops back on. Yeah, I need something to measure with here because, okay, amen. Yeah, a little bit. No, a lot. Have you been to, look at me, have you been to a chiropractor or somebody? Yeah, that's what I'm asking. I want to say in the name of Jesus Christ, I cast out magical healing. I'm willing to forgive those that have sinned against me. The blood of Jesus Christ sets me free right now. You tormenting spirit, leave my body right now. Loose her in the name of Jesus. Help me praise God for a miracle. I want you to bend over and touch your toes. Back up again. Do it again. Back up again. Now move. Where's the pain at? Is there any pain at all? Yes or no?
No.
No. Well, that's what we're praying about. God bless you. You go right over there.
Note that he lumped physiotherapists in the same group as chiropractors. I've heard him condemn physiotherapy a few times. At first I thought he was barking up the wrong tree, but it turns out that some physios offer services that are on the quack side. The second possible cause of pain and sickness is objects in your possession or in your home. These are objects that usually represent some form of spirituality that is considered unbiblical. Talismans, medals that represent Catholic saints, prayer beads, statues of Buddha, trinkets kept for superstitious purposes, and so on. It could also be books that promote these spiritual practices. If someone came up for healing but was wearing a crucifix or rosary beads, often the preacher would not pray for them unless they took those items off first. The reason we were told was that the person was putting their trust in a false religion, in this case Catholicism. The crucifix was a violation of God's command not to make a graven image or idol. An idol was described as an object that represents a god or religious entity, especially when the object is used to show dedication or reverence to this being. As for rosary beads, they have no biblical basis. Their only association is with religions considered false and demonic, so they were condemned. Many times the preacher would tell stories of people they had prayed for who were wearing such objects, and the person did not get healed until they took them off.
Catholic? How did you get born again in the Catholic Church? You sure? Father, we want to make sure. I want you to pray for me. I want you to say, God, be merciful to me, a sinner. Right now, I do believe in Jesus Christ. I break the curse of false religion. I speak deliverance from this moment. Amen. You born again? Do it again. Okay. So these two? Okay, why don't you take that off while I'm praying? Okay, that's idolatry. I'm not going to steal from him, just relax. I know it's not a God, but he's really nervous about this. Okay, that's idolatry. Okay, never put that on again. All right, let me talk to you.
See you in part 2.
I prayed for him right here. Some of you were here. And this man was totally deaf in one ear. I prayed for him. This was shortly after that event, and he was no better. And so I just started to tell him about this event, about this man having the medals. He immediately recognized where I was going, reached inside his shirt, pulled out a big medal. This medal looked like a Maltese cross. It had what I'm assuming was a saint on each point of the cross. And on the back it said, "Call a priest, I'm a Catholic." So I said, "Where do you go to church at?" He said, "I go to church at the Sweetwater Church in the Valley." I said, "Well, how long have you been saved?" And he said, 7 years. I said, "What are you doing with this on?" "I don't know." He said, "I'm just wearing it." I said, "Take that off." Took it off, and I prayed again. His ear instantly opened.